She thought she was canceling a wedding. She had no idea she was actually filing for divorce. Imagine sitting across from a tax preparer at H&R Block, trying to figure out a solar panel credit, when the person behind the desk looks up and says something that changes everything you thought you knew about your own life. Not just your relationship, your legal status, your identity, the ground you've been standing on for years. That's exactly what happened to a 26-year-old woman in Texas. And when she shared her story online, it stopped people cold. Because this wasn't just a breakup story. This wasn't just a story about financial betrayal. This was a story about accidentally becoming someone's wife without ever knowing it, and then finding out right in the middle of trying to figure out if you even wanted to stay with them. Let's back up, because to understand how wild this gets, you need to understand everything that came before that H&R Block moment. These two had been together for 7 years. 7 years. They bought a house together 3 years ago, 2 dogs, a shared life built brick by brick. When he proposed in May of 2025, she described it as thinking they were finally going to live happily ever after. And why wouldn't she think that? By every visible measure, they were a team. She managed their finances. They split everything 50-50. Joint bank accounts, joint credit cards, on each other's phone and insurance plans. She described herself as someone who came up hard, on her own at 17, no safety net, no family money to fall back on. She built financial discipline out of pure survival, paying off her credit card in full every single month, tracking every dollar. She knew what it meant to lose control of your money, and she'd spent her entire adult life making sure it would never happen to her again. He was the same. At least, that's what he told her. When they got engaged, he actually did the math, sat down and calculated exactly how much each of them needed to save every paycheck to fund the big wedding they'd always dreamed about. And for months, he hit every single savings milestone without missing a beat. She had no reason to doubt anything. Then came Valentine's Day. She was stressed, genuinely, legitimately stressed. The wedding was 6 months out. She had just sent a non-refundable $10,000 check to the venue, and the numbers were giving her that uncomfortable feeling that something wasn't going to add up. She estimated they'd come up $2,000 to $3,000 short by the end. Not catastrophic, but enough to worry her. She'd even given him an out before sending that check. Told him they could scrap the big wedding entirely, elope for a fraction of the cost, no hard feelings. He wanted the big wedding, so she sent the check. But sitting there on Valentine's Day, worried about the gap in their budget, she asked him if he could contribute more to the wedding fund on his good commission months. He hesitated, and that hesitation cracked something open in her. She asked him directly, "Are you hiding something from me financially?" He broke down. $17,000. $17,000 of credit card debt sitting on a personal card she didn't know existed, accumulated quietly over 3 years. 3 years of lies. 3 years of her asking if he'd paid off his balance, and him saying yes. 3 years of looking her in the eyes and telling her what she wanted to hear, while the debt grew in the background. She described the lies as the part that hurt most. Not the number. The lies. Because they weren't just financial lies, they were a window into a pattern. Over the following week, she uncovered more dishonesty. Not dramatic betrayals, but something almost more unsettling. A compulsive need to tell people what they wanted to hear. To manage everyone's perception of him, rather than tell the truth. He'd been lying to avoid conflict, to keep the peace, to preserve the image of the responsible partner who had it all together. He knew it too. He enrolled in individual therapy almost immediately. He offered couples therapy. He wasn't defensive or deflecting. He was crumbling under the weight of being found out, and he knew there was no version of this where he got to pretend it was okay. She agreed to couples therapy, but she was honest with herself and with him. She was in limbo. She didn't know if she wanted the relationship anymore. The wedding was canceled. She was able to stop the venue from cashing that $10,000 check, which was one small mercy in the middle of all the chaos. 2 weeks passed. The relationship was in this raw, unresolved state. They were still living together, still sharing a home and 2 dogs and a life, just with this enormous crack running through the middle of it. And then they had to file their taxes. They'd gotten solar panels on the house a few years back, and there was a tax credit available that they'd never fully explored. So they went to H&R Block together to figure out how to claim it. Now here is where the story takes a turn that not one person in a million would see coming. In Texas, there is something called a common law marriage. And unlike what a lot of people assume, it isn't just about how long you've been together. Under Texas law, a common law marriage is legally established when three specific things are true at the same time. The couple agrees to be married, they live together in Texas, and they represent themselves to others as being married. That third element, representing yourselves as married, can happen in ways that feel completely routine. Filing joint tax returns, listing a partner as a spouse on insurance documents, checking the wrong box on a form, referring to someone as your husband or wife in a casual conversation that gets documented somewhere. When the tax preparer at H&R Block started going through their documents, the house, the joint accounts, the years of financial entanglement, the picture that emerged was not two engaged people planning a future together. The picture that emerged was two people who, under Texas law, might already be legally married. She didn't walk in there to find out she was someone's wife. She walked in to get a solar panel tax credit, and instead, she walked out needing to talk to a lawyer. Because here's the thing about common law marriage in Texas that most people don't understand. If it exists, it's real. It's not a lesser version of marriage. It carries all the same legal weight: property rights, inheritance, debt liability, all of it. And ending it doesn't just require a breakup conversation. It requires a divorce. She wasn't canceling a wedding anymore. She was potentially already married to a man she wasn't sure she wanted to be with. And the only way out was through the legal system. So let's talk about what everyone watching this actually needs to take away from this story, because the legal piece here is more relevant to more people than you might think. Texas is one of a small number of states that still recognize common law marriage. The others include Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, Montana, New Hampshire for inheritance purposes only, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Utah, and the District of Columbia. If you live in one of these places and you've been in a long-term cohabiting relationship, you need to understand how your state defines common law marriage, because you might have more legal exposure than you realize. The second thing to understand is that financial entanglement creates legal risk even when you think you're just being practical. Joint accounts, joint mortgages, being listed as a spouse or partner on insurance or tax forms, these aren't just administrative details. In certain states, they're the building blocks of legal marriage by conduct. Third, and this is the one that cuts closest to the heart of this story, financial infidelity is real, it is common, and it is one of the leading causes of relationship breakdown. A hidden credit card, a lie about debt, a pattern of telling people what they want to hear instead of what's true. These things don't exist in isolation. They're almost always symptoms of something deeper, and they rarely stay small. If you're in a relationship where money is never fully transparent, where one person manages and the other just participates, that's worth examining before it becomes a legal problem. If you're planning to share finances with a partner, or if you already do, run a credit check on both of you together. Talk about debt explicitly, not just savings. Know what's on every card, every account, every obligation. And if you're in a state that recognizes common law marriage and you've been living with a partner for years, it is worth sitting down with a family law attorney for even just a 1-hour consultation to understand exactly where you stand. Not because something is wrong, just because knowing is always better than not knowing. She didn't know. And finding out the way she did, in the middle of deciding whether she even wanted to stay, was a level of complication no one should have to navigate blind. If something like this has happened to you, a hidden debt discovery, an unexpected legal situation in a relationship, a moment where the ground shifted under your feet, you are not alone. And you are not crazy for feeling like your life suddenly became a story you didn't sign up for. These situations are more common than people talk about, and the more we talk about them, the more people avoid walking into them unprepared. Subscribe if you want more real stories about the legal side of relationships, money, and the moments nobody plans for. Because the law doesn't wait until you're ready to understand it, and neither does life.